And I know in the NFL, you can cut guys, trade guys, no obstacles. It's very easy to go from bad to really good really fast. You get the right quarterback, the right coach. NBA, you're in quicksand if you're bad. You don't have draft picks. That's where the Lakers are. So you got to take a big swing because the LA market is more crowded than ever. 2 NFL teams, Lincoln Riley at USC. Clippers are now viable. They're going to take a big swing. They're not going to be patient. That's not what the Lakers are going to do. So I'll throw this at you. You call up Golden State and you say, Jordan Poole's becoming a star. You know it. Everybody knows it. And you're looking at Klay Thompson's contract and going, ugh. We'll take Klay Thompson. Give us James Wiseman, a big who can't stay healthy. He's a project. We'll take him. Those are 2 headaches that you won't admit publicly. That Jordan Poole's going to solve one. We'll give you Anthony Davis. That solves another. Now, he may not play 82 games, but you won't need him for that. And the Lakers get maybe a draft pick, James Wiseman, Klay Thompson, and the Warriors, they cry at the press conference, we love Klay, but privately, Jordan Poole's becoming an all-star, and they want him to play 40-some minutes a night, and you can't with Klay around. Is it nuts?
Before I answer that, Colin, I just realized that you are the Russ Westbrook of talk show hosts because you just throw things. I mean, you just did it to Joy. You just did it to me now. Like, it's the right idea, but it's coming in so hot and unexpected that you never quite know. Like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Anyway, I'm not mad at that idea. I always appreciate your out-of-the-box thinking. Do I believe that the Golden State Warriors emotionally would be able to detach themselves from Klay Thompson at this point? No, not without a full season of seeing if he can get back to any semblance of Klay. So that's the biggest rub. But from a simply basketball standpoint, it's not the worst idea. I'm in full agreement with you on James Wiseman. I don't know that Klay Thompson can get back to being Klay Thompson, and without question, I voted Jordan Poole most improved at the top of my most improved ballot.
Great young player.
I don't think he's going to win.
Yeah.
I believe Klay Thompson coming back undermined the season that Jordan was having.
Yep.
So it's not a crazy idea. I don't see it happening, but it's not a crazy idea.
Okay, Frank Vogel fired. I mean, listen, they've had 6 coaches in 11 years. They're becoming, I compared him to the Al Davis last 11 years owning the Raiders, where they'd bring in big names like Randy Moss to be relevant. The front office had too many friends of Al Davis. Just not really overly credible outside of a massive brand. Who do you hire next? What do you make of Vogel's firing?
Number one, Frank has nothing to complain about. He had 2 years in Orlando that were disastrous, and he was not the first choice by any stretch by the Lakers. And he comes in, he wins a championship. From everything that I've seen and heard, not a lot of what happened this season is being put on his plate, nor do I think it should be. This was a flawed roster from the very start, both from a basketball standpoint and a chemistry standpoint. And I knew that Frank didn't have the personality to ride roughshod over Russ, Dwight Howard, LeBron James, AD. It was just too much to ask. It would be too much to ask of anyone. So I don't have a problem with them moving on. I've said I've seen Mark Jackson change a culture, and the culture with the Lakers needs to be changed. Now, I haven't gotten any indication from sources that the front office is looking in Mark's direction, and that's going to be the greatest issue. There's always going to be an attraction to coaching the Lakers and to be the head coach in that market. But you're dealing with a LeBron James at this point. You have to know going in that everything is going to depend on your relationship with LeBron and your ability to build around LeBron. And from what I've been told around the league, for the first time, there's the question, is LeBron good enough to get you where you want to go, considering all of the concessions that you're going to have to make when you coach LeBron James?
Yeah.
That it's always a matter of what a guy can bring you versus the maintenance required to get the most out of him. And for the first time, there's the question of, can LeBron do enough that warrants all of the maintenance that he's going to require in terms of the authority and the control that he has in any franchise that he's been with?
All right, we got about 60 seconds left. If Ben Simmons plays 7 minutes a half for Brooklyn, just as a defender and distributor, they're going to beat Boston. Agree or not?
I don't know that Ben Simmons is the difference maker there. And so, no, seven minutes just isn't enough. If he's playing 20, 25 minutes and he's any semblance of the defensive player that we've seen him in the past, then yes, I would say that whether it's Boston or it's, with the Celtics, I would say that they have a good chance even without Ben Simmons. Because the question is going to be, is Jason Tatum ultimately going to show up, and what's the status of Robert Williams? The Nets are getting hot at the right time, and if they can incorporate Patty Mills and Seth Curry and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, I like their chances at an upset.
All right, good seeing you, Bukes. Appreciate it, buddy.
You got it, Colin.
All right, so here's my thing. If the Warriors get beat early in the playoffs, Klay Thompson struggles. Inside the building, he used 2 words: emotional attachment. So Steph, Klay, and Draymond are really tight. Steph would not like the move, but Steph would not like losing early in the playoffs either. And if Jordan Poole is emerging and costs you nothing, and Klay Thompson costs you a ton, and you kind of feel like he's hit a ceiling and he's getting in the way of Jordan Poole's growth, you move Klay Thompson to L.A. His dad Michael lives down here. You give James Wiseman, who's been kind of a bust as a draft pick but has a ton of talent, give him to the Lakers, maybe a draft pick. You get Anthony Davis, who will play 50 games. But when he's playing, I get Steph, Draymond, Jordan Poole, change. And they went from 4 wins to 11. And they went from last in points to first, just with a coaching change. Wasn't big personnel changes. Bill Parcells, Miami was a 1-15 team. Parcells shows up just as a general manager, hires a coach, Tony Soprano. They go to 11 wins. Because in the NFL, there are no real obstacles. You can cut players, trade players, move players. There's no resistance. The NBA is different. You can't just cut guys and trade guys. So the idea that, in the NBA, you get bad, you are in quicksand for half a decade. And that's if you hit a couple of draft picks. But remember, the kids you're drafting now in the NBA are 19 years old. Used to be you'd bring a Tim Duncan in or an Akeem Olajuwon or a Ewing. Well, these are like 24-year-old men. They've been in college for 4 years. So you could bring them into the NBA for your rebuild, and they were ready to be all-stars within a year. Well, even the good players now you bring out of college, they're 19 years old. Jalen Suggs, Gonzaga to Orlando. He is 2 years away from kind of nudging up to his NBA prime for 7 years. So the rebuild process in the NBA is brutal now because you're no longer drafting players, a Ewing that can come in and, immediately the Knicks were better. Immediately. He had so many college games. He was older. He was stronger. He was emotionally ready to be. You bring guys now in the NBA, they cannot drink at the hotel bar. They're 19 years old. Literally, you bring them in, and the rest of the team goes to get a glass of wine or a beer after the game. They have to go upstairs and, watch Hulu or something. So, I don't know how in the world Quinn Snyder would give up Utah or Nick Nurse would give up Toronto.
Well, also, if you look at the history of the Lakers over the past decade, why are you uprooting your family and taking a risk on an organization that's likely going to fire you in 3 years?
I've said this about New York Jets fans, or Cleveland Brown fans or Detroit Lion fans. They always want to fire the coach. And I'm like, you're sending a message to coaches.
Right.
Why would I take my daughters and my sons? I've got a good job. I'm a coordinator somewhere. My kids are in a good private school.
I'm also winning.
You're always better off. Jerry Jones, for all his faults, generally gives a coach another year, even Barry Switzer. You're better off creating stability, not, an owner knows you have bad years in business. These owners own 30 businesses. This is just one of them, their pro sports team. But these fans that always want you to fire the coach, it just sends a message. That's why the Cleveland Browns forever never get the greatest coach on the market. They just never get. By the way, the Giants, have gone through a lot of coaches, but Brian Daboll was one of the better coaches on the market, and they got him because they had been, Tom Coughlin at the end got extra years and extra years.
Well, also coaches talk about what the environment is as well. So if you're going to come in as a coach with the Lakers with that idea that you might be fired in 3 years, and then knowing that you're not going to have say over personnel, you're going to be the scapegoat if things go wrong. You're going to have to ask permission to change your end of game lineup. Like, other coaches know that as well.
Yeah, the things that everybody would have wanted to coach young and in his prime LeBron. Now LeBron's not that attractive to a coach because he doesn't give you 82 nights a year. He gives you 60. He's hurt a lot, and he still has leverage. Like the early LeBron, who wouldn't want to coach him? It's like Aaron Rodgers. He was great in his prime. Now you get old, expensive Aaron, who is prickly. That's not as fun to coach. Hustler Turfs, the brand lawn care professionals have trusted for years.